Right, let's get started. Good afternoon and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn session on building a dementia-friendly community. My name is Chris Van Leuven and I'm an education coordinator at the Alzheimer's Society of Peterborough, Kawartha Lakes, and Northumberland and Haliburton. And here to present with me today is my fellow education coordinator, Ali Grady, and our education supervisor, Sarah Cook, is also here. Today's presentation on dementia-friendly communities will provide you with a better understanding of dementia and the needs of people living with dementia as they go about their everyday activities. There are many things we can all do to help people with dementia live well in their communities. And our hope is that this presentation will help you think about the ways that you can support people living with dementia in your community. A dementia-friendly community is a place where people living with dementia and their care partners are welcomed, included, and supported. It's a community that pays attention to the social and physical needs of the person living with dementia. In our presentation today, we hope to increase your understanding of dementia, provide tips for identifying the common signs of dementia, share strategies for interacting with people living with dementia, and build on your understanding of the lived experience. It's important to understand how Alzheimer's disease and dementia are currently impacting Canadians. So right now, 564,000 Canadians are living with some form of dementia. That's a pretty startling statistic when you think about the fact that it translates to about one in every 11 Canadians living with a diagnosis of dementia. It's projected that 912,000 Canadians will be living with dementia within the next decade if a cure isn't found. Cases of dementia are on the rise, and they're expected to continue to rise, which makes sense when you consider that our population is aging, and age is the greatest risk factor for developing dementia. It's also important to note that 1 in 5 people will, at some point in their lives, experience being a care partner for a person living with dementia. And lastly, I wanted to highlight the Alzheimer's Society of Canada's survey results, which revealed that 46% of Canadians admit that they would feel ashamed or embarrassed if they had dementia. By working towards building dementia-friendly communities, we can reduce the stigma associated with the disease, which in turn supports those with a diagnosis of dementia to be able to access the help that they need to continue to live well. To get a good sense of the impact that dementia has in our communities, it's helpful to look at our local statistics. This graph shows the actual and approximate numbers of people living with dementia currently, along with projections to the year 2036. We've included numbers for each county area, as well as the total for our 4-county area, and we also included the numbers for Ontario as a whole. As you can see, over 9,000 seniors live with dementia in our counties. Dementia experts estimate that between 5 and 10 individuals comprise the circle of care for each person living with dementia. So conservatively, that means that at least 45,000 people in our area are impacted by the disease. Our region, as some of you are probably aware, has the highest percentage of seniors in Ontario, according to the Statistics Canada 2016 census report. As our population continues to age, with age being considered one of the greatest risk factors for developing Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, we expect that the number of people in our communities who are living with dementia or supporting somebody living with dementia is going to continue to grow significantly as well. I'm going to pass things over to Ali now, who's going to tell us about dementia and some of the common types of dementia.
Thanks, Chris. So we've talked a lot about the prevalence of dementia, but you may still be wondering, what exactly does dementia mean? And the term dementia doesn't actually refer to one specific disease. Rather, it's an umbrella term for a set of symptoms that are caused by disorders that affect the brain. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the common types of dementia. Some of the changes that you see with these types of dementia are memory loss, problems with language, trouble with familiar tasks. Eventually, the changes affect every area of the person's life. So let's look at the four most common types of dementia. It's important to note that these four types are irreversible, meaning that there is no known cure. So number one is Alzheimer's disease, and this is the most common form of dementia, accounting for 60 to 80% of total cases of people living with dementia. The damage from Alzheimer's disease starts in the hippocampus of the area of the brain, which is where we make memories, which is why short-term memory loss is often an early symptom. This type of dementia progresses to other brain regions in usually a fairly slow, gradual progression. Vascular dementia occurs because of impaired blood flow to the brain. So you might see this after someone has a stroke. This loss of blood flow results in a lack of oxygen to the brain cells, which causes the brain cells to die. And the location of the stroke in the brain determines the type of symptoms and cognitive changes that the person will experience. It's interesting to note that this type of dementia, vascular dementia, accounts for about 20% of dementias right now, but that number seems to be increasing. The next type of dementia we're going to talk about is Lewy body dementia, and this accounts for 5 to 15% of total cases. With Lewy body dementia, the areas of the brain involved in movement and thinking are most affected. A person may experience symptoms similar to those of Parkinson's disease, such as rigidity or stiffness of muscles, tremors, shaking, a stooped posture, and a slow shuffling movement. Along with those Parkinson's-like symptoms, they will also display symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, like loss of memory, language, and reasoning. With this type of dementia, there may be more marked fluctuations in alertness. Memory difficulties may not be an early symptom with this type of dementia, but can develop as it progresses. And with this type of dementia, we may also see visual hallucinations or seeing things that are not there. The last type of irreversible dementia we're going to talk about is frontotemporal dementia. And this is a fairly rare group of disorders that primarily affect the frontal and temporal regions of the brain, so the front and kind of the sides. And these areas are associated with personality, behavior, emotions, language, speech, abstract thinking, and movement. In some cases, the brain cells in these areas shrink and die off. In other cases, the brain cells actually enlarge, and they have these silver round Pick's bodies. So you may have heard of Pick's disease. It falls under the umbrella of frontotemporal dementia. Either way, if the cells are shrinking or growing, they cause changes in the brain that can lead to changes in behavior and problems with speech in the early stages. It's important to know also about frontotemporal dementia that it's a type of dementia that typically affects younger older adults. So it accounts for up to 20% of all dementias in those under the age of 65. So when people hear the term dementia, they often assume it's the incurable, irreversible types that we've just talked about. But it's important to know that there are many conditions that can create a temporary dementia, or what is sometimes termed a reversible dementia. So unlike the 4 types we just reviewed, which have no known cure, these conditions can be assessed, treated, and reversed. So some of these treatable conditions or conditions that can be managed include depression. Depression can mimic dementia with symptoms like mood changes, personality changes, apathy, loss of ambition, social isolation. Infection or delirium can cause severe dementia-like symptoms in a very short period of time. So the difference really between these two is the onset of how quickly a delirium can come on in hours or days, whereas a true dementia usually occurs over time. You may see this with an untreated urinary tract infection or UTI. Medication side effects. The side effects of some medications or not taking medications properly or taking too many medications can cause this temporary dementia. Metabolic disorders, whether it's a thyroid condition, liver disease, even diabetes, can sometimes cause symptoms of dementia. Vision or hearing impairment, left untreated, these things can cause confusion and disorientation that can sometimes look like dementia. Sleep disorders. Sleep is such an imperative for our physical and mental well-being, and so sleep deprivation, insomnia, sleep apnea can cause changes that might look like dementia. And nutritional deficiencies like a dietary or vitamin deficiency can cause dementia symptoms. A couple others that we haven't mentioned include a trauma, so due to a fall or concussion, a brain tumor, and dehydration. So these treatable conditions can be reversed or cured, and the brain can regain lost functions when treated properly. So if someone is experiencing symptoms of dementia, it's important to talk to a healthcare provider or healthcare professional to rule out these things first and to not be afraid to seek help for that. So how do you tell if a person might have dementia? Well, Chris and I are going to go through the 10 common signs that a person might be living with dementia. It's important to know that these are different from person to person, and it's different than what a person experiences with normal aging. So I'm going to talk about the first 5, and then Chris will take over the last 5 of the list. And also, I should note that you may not see all of these things in a person living with dementia. You may see a few, but kind of the more that you see, the more concern you might have. And these are in no particular order. So first one I'm going to talk about is changes in mood and behavior. So we all have changes in mood, but we can usually identify the reason behind it. A person living with dementia may change moods quickly and seemingly for no reason. The person might be laughing one minute and then crying the next, or acting in a way that isn't consistent with the situation, like laughing while you're giving directions. Damage to the brain makes it difficult for the person to regulate their mood in relation to what is happening in the environment. Problems with language. We all have moments when we simply can't find a word, but a person living with dementia may struggle to find simple words. They may misuse words without really noticing. They might substitute words that don't really make sense. They may use words, but not in a way that provides a clear message. Or if they speak multiple languages, they might revert back to the first language that they learned. This can make it really difficult to understand the meaning of what someone is saying. The person may also have difficulties understanding what others are saying or following along with a conversation. Problems with abstract thinking. A person living with dementia may have trouble with abstract thinking. They may have trouble making sense of symbols, pictures, and numbers. They may have trouble making sense of icons on the ATM, finding the right change, finding the right card. They might also have trouble understanding metaphors. The person may not get some figures of speech, jokes, sarcasm, or idioms like "it's raining cats and dogs" because they start to take it literally and it just doesn't make sense to them. Difficulty performing familiar tasks. We all have times when we're distracted and miss our bus stop or forget a step in a recipe. But people living with dementia start to struggle with such tasks, not necessarily because they're distracted, it might be part of it, but because they're having trouble recognizing visual or auditory cues. They may also have trouble remembering the sequence of steps. So for example, with dressing, they may not remember, what comes first, the underwear and then the pants and then the socks. The person may have trouble with object recognition or understanding what things are and what they're used for. Misplacing things. We all misplace things. I think I misplace my phone almost every day, especially when we're not paying attention. However, a person living with dementia may misplace things more frequently or put things in a spot that doesn't seem to make sense, like their reading glasses in the kitchen cabinet or a wristwatch in a sugar bowl, and then forget that they put them there. This can then have them feeling like people have taken those items because they can't find them, and they might become suspicious. Wow, that was a quick 5. We're already halfway through the list. Chris, do you want to take over for the last 5?
Yes, I definitely do. Thanks, Allie. So the sixth common sign that someone might be living with dementia that we're going to talk about is this loss of initiative. Loss of initiative with dementia is different than that you might see related to mental illnesses like depression. So somebody with dementia, they still enjoy participating in activities, but they might be able to initiate that activity on their own. Although people with dementia can still have depression, which really should be assessed by a professional. If the person doesn't want to engage in activities that they usually enjoy, even when they're supported, then it's time to talk to a healthcare provider. Disorientation of time and space. So this common sign of dementia could look a few different ways. For example, the person might come to their library program or to an appointment on the wrong day, or maybe they show up on the right day, but at the wrong time, or they go to the wrong location. Or the person may say something that isn't consistent with the here and now. They might mention wanting to go to a store that closed over a year ago, or they might talk about visiting a friend who already moved away or maybe even passed away. And lastly, the person might get turned around, even in a familiar environment, and become lost. Someone living with dementia can get lost on their own street. They might even lose their way walking to the same grocery store that they visited for the last decade. Memory problems which disrupt daily life. People living with dementia have problems making memories, and therefore they can't recall when they forgot something because that memory was never put down. It was never recorded in their brain. And these memory losses can have really great impact on the person's day-to-day life. They might miss appointments. They could forget their PIN number, or they could forget to pay their bills. Changes in personality. Our personalities can change in subtle ways over time. That's common. However, a person living with dementia might experience more striking personality changes, and they can become confused, paranoid, suspicious, or withdrawn. These changes might also include lack of interest, fearfulness, or acting out of character. And the final common sign that a person might be living with dementia that we have here on our list is impaired judgment. Impaired judgment puts the person living with dementia at risk. The person might make risky financial decisions that aren't consistent with their past behavior or beliefs. The person might dress inappropriately for the weather, which puts their health at risk if they're dressed too warmly on a hot day or not warmly enough. Thanks everyone so much for your attention and your patience as we work through that list. The items on the list are indicators that you as library or customer service staff might take notice of in the people that you serve or that you're assisting. We might notice that the person's having difficulty with memory or language, or we might sense that their behavior is a little out of the ordinary. However, for the person living with dementia, the changes that are taking place in their brain are changing the way that they perceive things. Geriatrician and dementia expert Dr. Alan Power once described dementia as a shift in the way a person experiences the world around them. It's important for us to support people with dementia in their reality and recognize that people with dementia can live well. Now that we know some of the common signs that someone might be living with dementia, Ali's going to talk about some of the signs that might indicate that a person is lost.
Well, thanks, Chris. And this is something that's really important because the statistics are really startling. I'll talk about it a little bit later on, but 3 out of 5 people with dementia will go missing at some point in their disease. So being able to identify a person who may be lost is critical to a dementia-friendly community. So let's look at some signs that a person might be lost. First one is the person may not be dressed appropriately for the weather, as Chris just was mentioning about that impaired judgment. A person living with dementia may exit their home in their pajamas. They may not wear a coat in the middle of winter, or they may be overdressed in the middle of summer. It's important to remember that common symptom of dementia of impaired judgment. The person doesn't realize that they aren't wearing shoes on the cold, snowy ground. This can be very dangerous for the person living with dementia, as inappropriate attire can lead to medical emergency like frostbite, hypothermia, or heat stroke. The person may be standing still, looking around for an extended period of time. For people living with dementia, the concept of time can be skewed, and they may not realize how long they've been standing in one place. Furthermore, difficulties with memory may cause them to forget why they came to a particular location or how they came to be there in the first place. Impaired problem-solving abilities may prohibit the person from asking for help, being able to reorient themselves, or to return to more familiar surroundings. The person may demonstrate a range of emotions. So you may notice that the person is experiencing rapid mood changes. They may go from being fearful to angry to crying in a short period of time, and their level of emotion may not be what you would expect given the situation. Abrupt mood swings are a common symptom of dementia, and the anxiety that the person may be feeling over having lost their way could cause them to have a heightened or increased expression of emotion. The person may say the same statement over and over again or ask the same question over and over again. Remember, people living with dementia often have difficulties with that short-term memory. They don't realize that they've already asked that question and received a response. And this is because they have difficulty forming memories and retaining new information. Similar to the increased levels of emotion, the stress of being lost can sometimes exacerbate this tendency towards repetitive questions or statements. Here's those statistics I was talking about. So it's really important for us to recognize these warning signs that someone is lost, because for someone living with dementia, becoming lost is an emergency. 3 out of 5 people with dementia will go missing at some point in the disease. This one's scary. 50% of people living with dementia who are not found within 24 hours experience a serious injury or even death. In order for people living with dementia to live well in our communities, they need to be safe, and we can be a part of that. Keeping people safe is an important part of a dementia-friendly community. You can learn more about the risks of living with dementia and learn ways that you can help people live safely by visiting a website called findingyourwayontario.ca and taking the free online Building Safe Communities course. We're going to take a break from Chris and I talking and show a little video that might help you to better understand the perspective of someone living with dementia. So we're going to play it for a little bit and then we'll pause it and ask you some questions. So make sure you're paying attention.
On air as the sun rises tomorrow morning from 7 o'clock here on 107.9 FM.
Right. It's not raining. Good. What? I've forgotten. Should I?
Just
I
both
put-
sit down. Just
Oh.
both sit down.
Yeah. Right. Oh, that way. I don't what? Oh, I don't know. Could you please? It's my list. Should I go? I don't know quite what. Oh dear. Oh my bread. Chicken cheese.
What?
Chicken cheese?
Sorry.
Oh. Oh. I don't know.
I'm going to pause for a bit of group discussion and reflection. So feel free to unmute yourself or you can type in the chat. Our first question is, what did you notice about the person's ability to use services like public transportation, the ATM, and grocery shopping?
Well, she obviously couldn't manage any of those. Very confused. As the noise got worse, she got worse.
Yeah, great observation. The noise was really disruptive. Yeah, I see Mary's put in here, very difficult. They couldn't navigate. Trouble with language. Yeah. The chicken cheese, not being able to say what she wanted or maybe not get the words out.
Problems with anything that was automated?
Absolutely. Great observation.
Put the tea in the fridge and the milk in the cupboard.
Yes, the tea in the fridge and the milk in the cupboard. Overwhelmed by daily tasks, no one offered to help her. High anxiety. Yes, thank you. All of those things are absolutely what I noticed as well in that video. So, what reactions from others did the person encounter? And kind of a follow-up to that is, how would you feel if people responded to you in that way?
They tried
Yeah,
to
the
tried
impatience.
to avoid them completely. They ran away from them.
Yeah, they ran away. That one shot of the ATM and the person kind of tapping her watch or tapping her foot. no patience. She was ignored, exasperated is how you'd feel.
The bus driver at least didn't let her get on the bus, but told her to go and sit in the chair or something. Go and sit down. That's not very helpful suggestion.
Right. I mean, he let her on the bus without paying the fare, but he wasn't very helpful of, oh, do you know where you need to go, or can I help you?
What the reaction from some people was similar to how people would react to someone who's mentally ill.
Right.
Even though that's not the case here.
Right. Good observation. I'm also seeing in the chat, she was ignored. People were annoyed and you would feel scared. Yeah. I would be frustrated being treated like that. And also they were all rude and didn't want to help. Thank you for sharing those things. So what could have been done to support this person and improve their experience? We kind of touched on a few of them already.
I would say she shouldn't have been out doing those things by herself, would be the main thing. She was obviously having problems that she couldn't deal with. It's very unfortunate.
So maybe having a person to accompany her on her tasks and be able to help navigate.
That's the big thing.
I think somehow taking her out of that loud, busy environment, like off to the side somewhere and talking to her in a calm, kind of relaxed manner might help decrease some of her anxiety too, and help her to communicate better what she needs.
Absolutely. Great suggestion. Yeah, it was so loud and bright and so much going on that you're right, taking them aside to somewhere that's a bit quieter. Great suggestion.
It could also fail too. It can also, she can reject the offer of help sometimes.
Yeah. I see Mary in the chat, focus on their strengths. See if they can respond to the question gently but rationally, and just having a conversation totally focused on her. Yeah. Karen doing only one task or errand at a time. Yeah, maybe she took on too much, going grocery shopping and to the bank and all of her errands at once. Maybe just focusing on one at a time would have been helpful. So let's go back into the video and see what their suggestions were for how the day could have gone differently.
On air as the sun rises tomorrow.
People with dementia have experiences like this every day. A little bit of understanding, tolerance and patience can make all the difference.
I'll tell you what, if you go into the seats just there,
Right.
when we get there, I'll call you, okay?
Okay, madam.
I can't get on.
Let me help you. This way.
Thank you.
Can I have a look at that list?
Yes.
Chicken and cheese.
Oh,
Let's go this way.
thank you. Find out how to become dementia friendly. Contact Alzheimer's Society today.
All right, thank you all very much for your contributions to that discussion. Such a powerful video, really helps to put you in the shoes of somebody living with dementia and experience the world through their lens. So I really appreciate everybody contributing, and what a great discussion. So thank you. As we saw watching, dementia affects a person's ability to be able to communicate. And that can make it difficult for somebody living with dementia to access the assistance, services, and the resources that they need. A dementia-friendly community commits to learning and using communication skills to support day-to-day interactions. Over the next several slides, we're going to discuss some key strategies that we can use to support people living with dementia to have those positive interactions. And I'm also seeing just a question here from Mary. How do we handle aggression in the library? So what we're going to talk about now is some strategies for positive interactions that are hopefully going to help prevent things escalating to a point where you're seeing aggression. So we'll work through these and then maybe follow up with your question afterwards. But thank you, Mary, for that one. As we mentioned, people living with dementia often experience difficulties with communications. And the first barrier to communication that we're going to talk about is understanding meaning. What's changing for the person? They may have difficulties understanding abstract thinking like metaphors and sarcasm. Even everyday phrases like "it's time to get ready" can be difficult for the person to interpret. What does ready really mean? We suggest that you try and use language that's clear, specific, and limited to just a few words. So instead of "it's time to get ready," you could suggest "it's time to get your coat and boots on," and just changing your language to that more specific terminology could help with the person's understanding. What else is changing for the person? They may say yes, or they might respond "I don't know" to everything that you're asking. So we suggest that instead of saying, or you could always offer two choices. So instead of saying something broad like "what would you like to drink?" try saying something specific like "would you like a cup of coffee or a cup of tea?" Following the conversation may also be challenging for a person living with dementia. But what's changing here? The person might be a step behind in the conversation and they might miss things. They may forget what they heard, or they might respond in unexpected ways. So some strategies to try are to keep it simple and just stick to one topic at a time. Slow down the conversation and allow for silent pauses to give the person time to process the information and formulate their response. Repeat what you've said as needed. And lastly, call out mistakes, lapses in memory, or unexpected responses. You're better to just kind of go with the flow. For speaking, the person might experience problems with finding the right word to express themselves, or they might mispronounce words, or they might jumble their sentences. Strategies to try here: to be an engaged and attentive listener, to give the person time to formulate their sentences, to be careful to not show impatience in your body language and your tone of voice. Without interrupting, you could ask some guiding questions like, "Did you mean blank?" And that might give you more information to help decode the meaning of the person's communication. Asking questions like, "Can you show me what you do with it?" If it looks like the person's trying to find the name of an object, can be helpful. Just overall, do your best to stay patient. The person may have trouble remembering what they already said, and they might become repetitive. So we've touched on this. So what do you do in that situation? We suggest that you listen to the person's questions, comments, or story as if it's the first time you've heard it. It's important not to call the person out on their mistake, because that might add to their confusion, or it might make them embarrassed. Be aware of the message you're sending with your body language and tone of voice. Try to keep your body language friendly and open, and your tone of voice should be calm and respectful. As Ali mentioned earlier, repetition might be a sign of heightened emotion. Validate the person's feelings by telling them you understand their reason for being upset, whether it's frustration, confusion, or a lack of understanding. Work to explore the reasons behind the repetition to discover if there's a meaning behind it, like an unmet need. Assist the person when it's possible in finding a resolution to their problem. Or you can try and distract them or redirect them to a different activity or a different topic of conversation. Keeping attention. So the person might have trouble staying focused on the conversation because they might be distracted by their own thoughts or on what's going on around them. Some strategies to try here are to use the person's name in the conversation to bring them and their attention back. Limit distractions in the room. So if there's a TV going or if there's music playing, maybe you could turn those things off. Maintaining eye contact if it's culturally appropriate. Keeping conversations to one topic and one person speaking at a time is helpful. Be okay with letting it go, because it's all right to postpone a conversation to a different time, or in some cases, just dropping it altogether. And if the environment is busy with lots going on, as we saw in the video, it's very busy atmospheres, try to guide the person to a quieter space. The change of venue will likely help them to be able to refocus. And lastly, we're going to talk about becoming frustrated. So the person might appear anxious, embarrassed, or angry, and they may withdraw from the situation. It's important to understand that the person is often responding to the information that's available to them, which might not even be correct information, right? They're relying on the information that they're receiving from their brain, which there's been changes there. And those changes happening in their brain may alter their perception, and it might cause their reality to be different. Additionally, they might be experiencing frustration because of the changes in their own abilities and not being able to perform a task or a function in the same way that they did prior to developing dementia. Some strategies to try here are, again, to just validate those emotions. I can see that you're feeling frustrated. Take your time. I'll do my best to understand what you're looking for and help if I can. You can also try and look for cues about what might be upsetting the person. So, although these strategies that we've outlined over the past 6 slides have been geared towards supporting people living with dementia, we kind of feel that they're good communication practices to implement in your interactions with all of your customers, your clients, or your patrons. Everything from being an active listener to maintaining friendly and open body language, to being patient and validating concerns are all good strategies for creating a great customer experience across the board, not just with those that are living with dementia. I'm going to pass things back over to Ali now, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of building dementia-friendly communities.
Thanks, Chris. I find those strategies really helpful, even though they're just kind of the surface level. We have so much more that we can go in depth with, but those are some great strategies. So being dementia friendly means adopting strategies to enhance communication, physical spaces, and policies that are more inclusive and accessible for people living with dementia. Our goal is for people living with dementia and their care partners to be able to live well in their community for many years. And there are many things that we can do to make this possible. So I'd like to ask, what will you do? If you'd like to, oh, I'm just here in the background. I wonder if we can mute that sound, but either in the chat or if you'd like to unmute yourself, what is one idea for an individual action? So something that you can do, and one idea for a group action if you're part of an organization.
Can I just jump on and say something?
Please.
I mean, I can really just, that last little bit just makes me have so much empathy for caregivers of people with dementia, and especially, you know, just that need for respite or just for a social contact, I think, for the caregivers as well. And just working in a public library setting, I've been trying to think of programming ideas that could involve caregivers and people that are experiencing dementia that would give both of them a bit of change of routine or a bit of, I guess, social contact that might help alleviate some of the frustrations for both of them.
Absolutely. I really like that, including the care partner and the person living with dementia into your programming. That sounds like a great idea. I'm just noticing in the chat, having flyers or posters declaring that you're dementia friendly, cognitive kits, so activities for, this is kind of going along with the involving the care partner and the person living with dementia, but cognitive kit and activity for the people to do together. Maybe allow more confidence from the person who has dementia, allowing, giving them time, allowing them to be more prepared. Great ideas. So whether you put something in the chat or not, I encourage you to make a specific goal, whether it's to be careful about your language, to not use jokes about, Alzheimer's and dementia, or whether you start to actively involve people living with dementia in the planning of your organization. I encourage you to write down at least one goal to move forward from today. So because this presentation is just a brief overview of the Dementia Friendly Community initiative, we've limited the focus to identifying a person living with dementia and sharing strategies to enhance interactions. However, if you are hungry for more, we are happy to create a tailored presentation to meet the needs of your business or organization. And we can do it virtually at this time, which makes it easy for planning. There's also something really exciting that has come out in the last couple of months, and it's a partnership between the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario and the Dementia Friendly Ontario committees. And they've developed a free virtual online course called Building Dementia Friendly Communities. These e-modules provide guidance when it comes to adapting physical spaces and creating policies that are dementia friendly. And you can access them by clicking the link on the Dementia Friendly Ontario website, which is just dementiafriendlyontario.ca. And this course was specifically designed for the retail industry, the transportation industry, and the library sectors, but it's also great for the general public. I know Chris and I have both taken them. It takes about 75 minutes to complete all the modules. They're very interactive, and we would recommend it to anyone looking to learn more about dementia, whether it's to support a friend or neighbor or family member or client or patron. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us here today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your lunch hour or your day to be here and learn more about dementia-friendly communities. Again, if you'd like to learn more, please visit the website dementiafriendlyontario.ca, or you can always ask Chris or I or Sarah. You can send us an email, or you can visit our website, which is the Alzheimer's Society of Peterborough, Kawartha Lakes, Northumberland, and Haliburton. But to make it easy, it's just alzheimer.ca. And our website is specifically with the /PKLNH. So with a little bit of time to spare, I'm going to ask Sarah to stop the recording and we can take a few questions.